Hi there, it's Callum Newman, editor of the Daily Reckoning with your latest video update. As you know, we've recently said goodbye to my former colleague, Shay Russell, and so I'm taking over the video here. And today I'm thrilled to have on my colleague, Ryan Dinse. Now, Ryan is a small cap trader, but he's also been heavily involved in the crypto world for a very long time now. And he recently launched a new product called New Money Investor. And today we're going to go over what he's seeing in the crypto market, what his new product's designed to do, and the opportunities and the disruption that crypto is bringing to the financial world. Ryan, thanks for coming on.
Hi, Callum. Good to be here.
Now, I mentioned your new service, New Money Investor. You already have a crypto trading service. Can you introduce why you see now as a need to introduce a new one? And clearly you already have the trading service, so this is a different take on the market. Can you expand on what you're doing?
So just to clarify, this isn't a cryptocurrency service per se. New Money Investor was an idea that me and my colleague Greg Canavan had been thinking about for most of 2020. And Greg Canavan, as some people might know, is not necessarily a believer in cryptocurrencies like I am. However, him and me both saw something, especially last year, but probably for the last 10 years, that the financial system was increasingly breaking down. Basically, I think we all felt that very acutely in 2020 when a global pandemic hit, the wheels of commerce ground to a halt, and yet stock markets and property markets rocketed to record highs. And I think everyone felt there was this dislocation between what was happening in markets and what was happening in the real economy. And the pandemic sort of just brought that home to everyone. And the conclusion both Greg and I reached last year was that money was fundamentally breaking down. And that was the missing part of the jigsaw that people weren't seeing. So money itself was being debased. You've got negative interest rates in some parts of the world. So the time value of money has disappeared. There's no point in saving money anymore. You've got central banks like the Federal Reserve, basically quantitative easing, you're printing money and propping up zombie companies basically and zombie economies with new money. You've got yield curve control, this other technical term to keep interest rates artificially down. So you've got all these things happening, which is a signal that the system of money is breaking down. And so me and Greg were talking about this for a long time. And obviously, as a big proponent of cryptocurrencies, I was explaining to Greg that, if the current system of money is breaking down, then we're going to have to move to a different system of money, a different financial infrastructure. And I can see cryptocurrencies being a huge part of that. So we started having these discussions, and we thought they were pretty interesting. And we thought this is something that no one else in Australia was following, this story of a changing money system. So we came up with this concept of New Money Investor, which is at its heart is to track these changes in the financial system. Track these systems of money, because these things don't happen very often. They happen so rarely that most people think they never happen. But if you take a longer viewpoint, if you look back in history, we've moved from gold standards, from the British pound being the reserve asset. We've moved to a system of fiat money. We've moved to petrodollar being the global currency. So money changes all the time, but it just happens over decades rather than over weeks or months. So people don't tend to notice it. And we think we're at a pivotal point where money is going to change again. And if we're correct on that, the question becomes, well, what's it going to change into? And how can you benefit from that? And that's pretty much at the heart of the new service.
Well, one of the things I've been tracking for a while, for a couple of years now, is the introduction of central bank digital currencies, which would be a massive change to the current system as we have it now. Is that one of the core themes that you guys will be following as well?
It's one of the stories within the bigger picture story. So the question being, money's changing, what does it change to? So I think the important thing to realize about central bank digital currencies is that's an admission from the central banks right now that the current system of money is failing. So that is basically them admitting that what is working right now isn't going to work in the future, and so they need to change it. But if you think about it, the people that have made this system of money fail is central banks. So the arrogance of them to say, well, let's move to this new system of money in a digital currency that we control is, it's pretty arrogant to think, oh, because we failed at that, let's trust us with this new system of money. And CBDCs are not true digital currencies. They're basically, in a way, they're actually entrenching more centralized control of money through central banks and centralized powers, which is a dangerous thing. So you've got this dichotomy of digital currencies are going to be part of the future of money, but you've got central banks trying to control that narrative. And then on the other side of the coin, you've got cryptocurrencies, which in my opinion are the free market for money. They're a place where you don't have centralized powers. I mean, Bitcoin itself has been existing for 12 years. It's been working fine with no it's been working as intended for 12 years with no regulator messing with it, with no central power changing the supplier or tweaking it. And it's risen, all the way up to around about, 55, 60,000 US dollars a Bitcoin with just the free market controlling that price. And of course, it's gone through cycles, and of course, it's volatile. But in between all that volatility has been a free market solution to money that seems to be making great strides in creating something that is not it's not part of this existing money system, which seems to be failing. So it's coming about at exactly the right time. And of course, you've got a whole bunch of experimentation in other cryptocurrencies as well, which aren't just looking at money per se, but they're also looking at the infrastructure of finance. So how do you move money from point A to point B, or how do you change ownership of a stock? At the moment in the current system, you've got all these middlemen in between there that all clip a ticket for doing that function, because in the past, that was the only way you could do it. You had to trust these people. But now with cryptocurrencies, you don't need these middlemen. Computer code sits in between transactions between peer-to-peer people making trades or sending money or whatever it is. And so you've got this new financial infrastructure springing up as well. So it's a really exciting changes happening. And I don't really think many people fully appreciate the extent of these changes. They're going to radically alter money and the financial infrastructure that exists today. And in 5 years, it will probably look obvious. 5 or 10 years, it will look obvious. But right now, it's that point in time where you've got, people like me who are strong advocates for it. And then you've got other people that are, very negative on it. And I think that's where my colleague Greg Canavan comes in, because he's sort of at the start of this journey. So he's taking the viewpoint in the service as not the skeptic, but as the person trying to, work out, well, where does this fit in, and is there problems in it, or is it the future like I think it is? So that's sort of how we're playing
earlier, just before we started, mentioned we were talking a little bit about some of the the crazy rises in Dogecoin, and the one with the famous, I can't remember the type of dog it is, but that is a distraction from what is genuine development going on in the crypto space, isn't it? Because there's a lot of developers working on all sorts of different projects, genuine ones. But what attracts the headlines is just the rank speculation that goes on around this whole thing.
Yeah, of course. And that is a distraction, and it's something the mainstream media jumps upon all the time. Of course, there's scams in crypto. Wherever there's money, there's going to be bad actors. Think of a gold rush. There's going to be scams in a gold rush town. Most people that flocked to California or Bendigo and Ballarat, in the 1800s, probably got fleeced by people along the way that were trying to, steal money off them. And crypto is no different. And the fact it's unregulated, and the fact it's the wild west of money means that, of course, there's bad actors, and there's the scam coins, and there's just incompetent projects that are, the valuations aren't correct compared to what they should be. So there's a whole heap of those stuff happening. But that doesn't mean there's not real innovation and real progress being made as well. And this cycles of boom and bust within crypto actually have a positive effect. So say the 2017-18 bull market, when Bitcoin sort of came into the consciousness of the mainstream in a big way, and you had a huge rise in the value of Bitcoin and a bunch of altcoins, that crashed in 2018, and we had 2 years where nothing, where prices all fell. But what happened in 2017-18? All this influx of new money, so all these projects, that ICOs they were called at the time, initial coin offerings, they raised all this money, and that brought in a lot of really smart coders, cryptographers, computer scientists, and all these people were now funded to work on these projects. So although the price went on its bull run and then its bust phase, the really smart people, and there's lots of them in the space, have been working on fixing ideas around privacy, fixing ideas around economics, fixing ideas around financial infrastructure. And they've been cashed up to do that for the last 3 years. So in this bull market, what we're starting to see, which is different from the 2017 bull market, is we're seeing real life projects that are actually fulfilling use cases. We're seeing decentralized banking alternatives. Like I use a decentralized banking platform where I can get anywhere between 10 to 20% on my cash savings, which, you do that in a bank, you get less than 1%. I'm using decentralized platform to become a market maker and earn fees on trading. So you're actually seeing real life adoption, real life use cases in this bull market. And that in turn is starting to bring in the mainstream players. So a lot of the big banks, say JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, they're in this now. They're taking positions. Of course, they're not always going to broadcast it because they want to try and work out where the money's to be made before they do that. But you're starting to see, Spanish banks and German banks have allowing people to buy, hold, and trade cryptos through them. There are moves underfoot to allow US banks to do the same thing. There's a company called NYDIG, which works with the big insurers in America and banks, and they're in the process of creating a custodianship arrangement to allow the big banks in America to actually allow their customers to hold Bitcoin, which is amazing when you think about it. From 3 years ago, everyone said it was a scam, and now the biggest banks in the world are actually going to allow their customers to hold it and trade it and do all sorts of things. So yeah, you've got to remember, there's in any sort of boom, you're going to attract bad actors, you're going to attract scams, and they do exist. And that's why you need, and I think that's why the gap for this product was here. You're going to need someone that knows all this. I got into Bitcoin in 2013 and 14. I've probably been victim to lots of scams myself. I've lost money. I've done all the stupid things people will make. And part of my motivation for continuing to run a service like this is to make sure people don't make the same mistakes I've made. So sort of learn from my mistakes, don't make them yourself. So you need
it's
that
interesting talking
guide.
about the development going on. Sometimes I look at the stock market, and as you know, companies release regular news flow, and often they have obligations. And you see some of these small companies, they still like fax in the forms that they have to fill in and stuff. And you're like, this is ancient what they're doing. The way they go about it, and they're signing it with pen and paper and scribbling their names and stuff. There's no doubt in my mind that stock markets themselves will be disrupted, and companies will eventually go to using tokenized assets or smart contracts, these kind of things, to raise money to execute in the capital markets. So will you be tracking legacy financial firms like the ASX, for example, that are ripe for this disruption? Because while it seems very dominant today, and it's a monopoly basically, it is primed to be broken open in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. So from the investment angle, we've left that sort of open because we want to see what opportunities open up as the story develops. So we don't want to be locked into specific investment recommendations. So right now I'm looking at an investment recommendation which is talking about allowing people to tap into that decentralized banking opportunity and earn some decent interest on their savings. That's probably the first idea we're looking at and trying to get in front of subscribers. But we'll probably have some cryptocurrency ideas we'll recommend. We might have some stocks we'll recommend. We might have some broad macro portfolio themes we talk about. We might even look at precious metals, gold and silver. We don't want to be locked into anything. We want to see how the story develops. And me and Greg are by no means certain on exactly how it's going to develop, but we know that the changes that are going to be brought about are going to open up huge opportunities. Like you said, the legacy banking system is archaic. I actually released a report in 2019 called The Great Bank Unbundling for subscribers of my stock picking service, Exponential Stock Investor. And I said, the banks are going to be basically unbundled. Bank branches are going to close. You're going to get these smaller, nimbler, tech-driven competitors are just going to focus on one thing. So, insurance, or maybe, you've got Afterpay with buy now, pay later, which was a whole new sort of field they created, but it was a type of credit product. And they're going to come in and they're going to strip customers away like that. And that, in the last 2 years, that's exactly how it's played out. So I think what happens next, though, when you bring in distributed ledger technology, cryptocurrencies, blockchain, that just takes this all to the next level. This is about disrupting not just banks, but all the middlemen, so custodians, auditors, regulators, even central banks. Even you're doing a disruption at a huge scale. So you're talking about basically turning money into software. And the whole financial infrastructure into software. And we've all seen that story play out. We saw it happen with retail with Amazon, how Amazon basically just ate all the retailers' profits up. We're going to see the same thing happen in financial markets and into banking companies. And right now, I think they're at the stage where they maybe realize, the smarter ones realize they have to look at this space now. It's not going to go away. It's not going to die a death. It's not going to be, the government's not going to shut it down because they can't. So now the smart ones are trying to say, well, how can we exist in this new world? And that's the kind of companies I would be looking for in terms of stock picks, ones that can fulfill a niche, because, traditional companies sometimes have some advantages. Maybe it's a capital base, or maybe it's a customer base or something. If they can marry these two new worlds, there might be some compelling opportunities there. But the ones that stick their heads in the sand and hope this will go away, they'll be the ones that go the way of Kodak and all those other companies that couldn't adjust to a new reality.
Yeah, and we saw it with Facebook when they tried to release their Coin, when they're like, well, we have a bigger user base than anybody in the world, and we could have a coin where they could facilitate transactions.
It's funny you bring up Facebook, Callum, because Mark Zuckerberg just posted on his Facebook account yesterday. He was introducing his two pet goats, and he had a picture of himself and these two goats, and one was called Max and one was called Bitcoin. So that was a strange post from Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO or founder of Facebook. So I don't know if that's a hint that maybe Facebook have given up Libra. Maybe they're going to go to Bitcoin.
What's with rich people and strange pets? I know Arnold Schwarzenegger's got a small horse and a donkey.
What have you got, Callum?
Can't they get a
What have you got, dog?
No, I've got two kids. You talked a little bit there about the financial aspects, disruption, opportunities, but this is a multi-layered thing too, because, and you touched on it earlier, that there's a political element to this too. We've talked before. I remember in 2016 we had a conference. We talked about how cash was going to be eventually banned. That's still on track. The pandemic's only accelerated that dynamic. But there is a trade-off to that, where it will be possible, if you're within this central bank digital currency system, that they'll be able to track every single penny. And so privacy and liberty advocates, worry about that. Then you have the decentralized free market system, which Bitcoin is one, but there are other examples. And I feel like they're going to clash further, those two things, down the track somewhere. Do you think along similar lines?
They could do, or they could coexist. But this is one of the reasons why I'm running a service like this and various crypto services, because I truly believe that it's in society's interest to avoid that outcome that you talked about. We don't want a all-encompassing government that can track what you're spending, can watch everything you're doing with your money, and can watch everything you're doing online. I believe that privacy is a fundamental human right. And I think in between all the sort of, the mudslinging of cryptos, I think if people truly appreciate that what crypto is a free market that respects the rights of the individual, I think more people will politically be able to overcome maybe some initial hesitance about it, that thinking it's thinking it's something else, because there's a lot of, they call it FUD in crypto land, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. A lot of people, especially those that have current power, throw a lot of mud at crypto and try and say it's this thing or it's that thing. It's bad for the environment, or it's all just for use by criminals. It's for scammers. They try and do that, but they're not doing that from any genuine, genuine sort of concern about your well-being. They're doing that because in this new system, anyone who's close to these central powers of money now loses that power. They become, working for JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs, or being an economist at the RBA doesn't hold as much sway in this new world. Sorry, you're redundant. We don't need you. And to be honest, why should we need them? They've failed us, and that's the central premise of the service. Money is failing, and it's failing because all these people that think they're so smart are basically have corrupted money because they don't want to lose out themselves. If we really had a genuine money system, then we would let interest rates rise. If that had a negative effect on markets, so be it. That's how markets are supposed to work. People are meant to think of the risks of investments and account for them, but we don't. We have a manipulated monetary system, which is in turn manipulated markets. So yeah, to your point, will governments try and strike back? Probably, yes. Can they win? In my opinion, no, and that'll be something we talk about in the service. Will there perhaps be two systems coinciding for a while? Probably. But if we look out far enough, say 2040, 2050, I think our kids will wonder why we ever trusted this silly paper money that was created at will. in crypto terms, they would call it a shit coin. You know what I mean? Like a coin with no value, with unlimited supply. They'll be genuinely confused why we would ever use that, because they'll be existing in this free market for money, where money goes back to its roots, where you don't get rewarded for being close to the teat of money supply. You get rewarded for creating a business, being innovative, working hard, saving. What the ways that probably our grandparents thought money existed, which has somehow changed over the last 2 or 3 decades. So I think, I don't think it's stoppable. It doesn't mean, though, and this is a mistake some people make, is they think, oh, this new future will be a utopian, egalitarian thing where everyone's equal. No, it won't. The opportunity to be at the top of this new tree is now. But in the future, it's not like, although money will be fairer, it doesn't mean we're going to live in some sort of socialist world where everyone has. That's not how it works either. What is equal is the opportunities here for everyone to see, and it's up to whoever can, work their way to see it and then make the most of it. It's there for everyone, and I think those that manage to work that out will be fairly well off in the future world of money.
Absolutely. Well, just from this brief introduction, there's so much to go around this, and there's so many implications. Just for the practicalities of anyone watching, is it a monthly report that they'd get if they do jump on board?
Yeah. So again, it's like I said, it's such a big topic. Sometimes me and Greg initially said, look, we'll do a big monthly, and that'll be it. But since we started this, just a week ago, we've sent out. We did a video update the other day. I think we're going to try and have a lot of chats, because I think conversations like this can be more illuminating than a big 3,000 word essay. So we will have the monthly pieces, but I think we're going to try and supplement that with conversations between me and Greg, between us and guests potentially who exist in this new world, and see if they can explain things in a different way. And then we'll just be putting stuff as it comes to hand. So I think today I'm sending out a note to new subscribers on this free course on Bitcoin that I found that's really good. So if you get that, Callum, check it out. But any tidbits we find that can try and help illuminate this new world, we'll try and send them on. But I think we're just going to see where this service takes us. One of the questions we have had from early subscribers, though, is there going to be investment recommendations? There will be investment recommendations, but again, we're going to let this story dictate where we find them and when we find them, rather than trying to fit it into a pre-driven schedule. Let's get understanding of the story first. So I think the first couple of months, our big aim will be to get everyone up to speed with where me and Greg think we're at in the world. Talk about some of those big issues that you talked about, and then get us right into the action of where we are now. And then that will mean that when we present investment opportunities as we see them, people will be able to gauge them on their merits rather than trying to catch up to where we are. So I think that's how we're going to play it.
Great. So what we can do is we'll put a link to the new service in the comments box. So if you're watching and you want to check it out, I presume it comes with a free trial.
Yeah, I think so. I think the usual probably check that out. I think it's the usual 30-day free trial, but yeah, I think so.
Check it out, see if it's for you. For my mind, I don't think there's any more important dynamic to follow now, because obviously the financial system links into everything and every company and every person, and we know there's big disruption coming. We know there's risks, big opportunities. And all of that dynamic is really fascinating to follow. So it's going to be very interesting to see what you guys come up with. All right, thanks for coming on, and we'll check back in maybe 6 months and see how it's all going, and we'll do it again.
All right, sounds good, Callum. Thanks.